It was one of those slow, sunny afternoons that almost trick you into thinking life is simple. Thomas and I had just finished lunch at this sweet little bistro we both liked. Warm bread, soft music, the kind of place that makes you feel married in all the best ways. We were walking through the shopping district, my hand tucked into his, no real destination. I remember laughing at something he said, something small and dumb but sweet. The world felt calm, familiar, safe. Then I saw it. A necklace in the window of this upscale jewelry store. It literally stopped me in my tracks. It wasn't just beautiful, it was breathtaking. Silver and deep sapphire, like something out of a dream. I gasped, instantly picturing it against my skin, how it might feel resting right above my collarbone. I turned to Thomas, eyes wide, tugging at his sleeve like a kid. "Come on," I said. "Let's just look." He didn't move. He sort of laughed, shaking his head, and gave me this half-hearted smile. "I'm tired of shopping, love," he said. "Let's go home." But I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. Something about that necklace pulled at me. Maybe it was the sparkle, or maybe it was the way his face changed the second I insisted. I nudged him again, teasing, laughing. Eventually, he let me drag him through the door. The second we stepped inside, the smell hit me, rich leather, polished wood, something powdery and expensive in the air. It was quiet, elegant, like stepping into a secret world where time slows down. I was still looking around, wide-eyed, when she appeared, this bubbly, perfectly dressed woman with glossy hair and a voice like she knew you. "Mr. Thomas, how wonderful to see one of our most loyal customers," she beamed. And then she turned to me, warm and welcoming. "And this must be your wife." I blinked. Something in me paused, like a record scratch deep inside my chest. "Loyal customer?" I turned to Thomas, expecting some kind of polite correction, or maybe just a laugh. But he froze. His smile tightened. And before I could say anything, the saleswoman kept going, completely oblivious to the grenade she was about to drop. "I'm sure she adored the necklace you bought last week," she said, practically glowing. My stomach dropped. I couldn't speak for a second. My heart was suddenly in my ears, pounding so loud I could barely hear the rest. What necklace? There was no necklace. Not for me. Not last week. I looked at Thomas again, searching his face, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I smiled, a strange, shaky thing, while something inside me split. I stood there, nodding like everything made sense, even though nothing did. I played along, pretending I remembered exactly what she meant. "Oh, that necklace!" I said with a little laugh, like I was in on the surprise. My voice didn't shake, but my hands felt cold. Thomas still hadn't said a word. He was just there, breathing, waiting. And the saleswoman? She was thrilled, chatting away, telling me how thoughtful he'd been. "You're such a lucky woman," she smiled. "He even had it engraved." Engraved? That word hit me like a slap. Who was the engraving for, and why wasn't it around my neck? My thoughts were racing, spiraling, trying to catch up with my heartbeat. I thanked her somehow, and we left the store with a little awkward wave. Thomas mumbled something about being tired again. I nodded, walked beside him, even kissed his cheek at the crosswalk. But inside, I was somewhere else entirely. Because in that moment, I knew. I didn't have the whole truth. Not yet. But something wasn't right. That necklace was meant for someone, and it wasn't me. And if he thought I'd just forget it ever happened, he didn't know me at all. I didn't confront him that night. No shouting, no accusations. Just a soft smile and a glass of wine at dinner, as if nothing had happened. But something had, something big, and I needed more than just a gut feeling. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that real power doesn't come from loud voices. It comes from quiet knowing. And I planned to know everything. The next day, I went back to the jewelry store. Alone this time. I walked in like I belonged there. Like I'd been shopping there for years. The same saleswoman greeted me with that same bubbly charm. I smiled and said I wanted to look at something similar to the necklace my husband bought last week. Her eyes lit up. She remembered. Of course, that stunning sapphire with the floral engraving, she said without hesitation. She even pulled up the receipt. Same day the necklace was purchased, same initials on the engraving, but they weren't mine. That part stung. I asked a few casual questions. How often he shops, what else he's bought lately. The more she shared, the more certain I became. This wasn't a one-time slip. This was deliberate, planned, rehearsed. He had secrets, and I was finally wide awake. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay beside him, watching his chest rise and fall like everything was normal, like the world hadn't shifted. I whispered, "I love you," just before turning off the light, and he whispered it back, completely unaware. Meanwhile, I was already making mental checklists, credit card statements, email notifications, the little drawer by his desk where he thinks I never look. By morning, I was officially on a mission. I made coffee, kissed him goodbye, and waited for the door to close. Then I pulled out my phone and started digging. His bank app was still linked to our joint email. Lazy mistake. I tracked recent transactions, restaurants I didn't recognize, Uber rides that didn't match his schedule, and yes, that same jewelry store. A sinking feeling twisted in my gut, but I kept going. I started keeping a folder, screenshots, photos of receipts I found tucked in jacket pockets. Every little inconsistency was now mine to catalog. I wasn't just collecting facts, I was building a case. But the strangest part? I didn't feel angry, not yet. I felt focused, cold, like someone slowly slipping into a different version of herself, one that didn't ask for truth. She went out and took it. A few days later, I went back to the store again, this time dressed like the kind of woman who belonged in a place like that. Fresh blowout, red lipstick, heels that said I didn't chase. I arrived. "I'm Thomas's wife," I told the newer girl at the counter with a little laugh, like I was covering for his forgetful tendencies. He mentioned buying something else recently, and I wanted to surprise him by picking it up. She bought every word. She showed me his customer profile, multiple purchases over the past year, rings, earrings, another necklace just 2 months ago. One was even wrapped with a handwritten card. I asked if I could see it, just to check what it said. And there it was, to see. "You make me feel alive again." My smile didn't even twitch. I just nodded and thanked her, pretending I'd come back later. At home, I tucked that detail away with the others. I was no longer shocked. I was preparing. The truth was forming shape now, solid, undeniable. This wasn't a midlife crisis or some one-time mistake. It was a pattern, a lifestyle. And if he thought I'd cry quietly in the dark over it, he was about to learn exactly who he married. The funny thing is, I think he started falling in love with me again. Right when I stopped loving him, I became softer, sweeter. Breakfast in bed, little gifts, just because. I told him how lucky I felt to have him, and he drank it in like a man dying of thirst. He had no idea I knew, no idea I was watching his every move with eyes wide open. And I never once let the smile slip. I became the perfect wife. But this time, I made sure there was a price. "Can I get that little bag I saw downtown?" I'd say with a playful pout. I've been so patient, haven't I? And of course, he'd cave. Guilt works wonders when you never say a word. Then it was a weekend spa trip, then a new bracelet. He gave, and I took. And he still had no clue I was keeping score. Whenever I brought her up, lightly, carefully, he tensed. "Oh, I saw a woman today who looked just like that girl from your office," I'd say, casually stirring my tea. And there it was, tight jaw, nervous smile. "We're not even close," he'd mutter, brushing it off. But the way his hands fidgeted said otherwise. He wasn't just hiding something anymore. He was afraid of being found out. And that fear? It became my favorite kind of leverage. I never yelled, never accused, just planted little seeds and let them grow in his mind. "You know, reputation is such a fragile thing," I said once, smiling across the dinner table. One wrong move and it all comes crashing down. He didn't even touch his wine after that. I watched him squirm in his own skin, wondering how much I knew. That was the beauty of it. He couldn't tell where the line was. So he kept paying. For my silence, for my sweetness, for the illusion that he was still in control. I redecorated the living room, upgraded the kitchen appliances, bought that designer coat I'd been eyeing for years. Every purchase came wrapped in guilt, tied with fear. He said yes to everything, almost too quickly, like he was trying to stay one step ahead of a storm he couldn't see. But the storm was me, and I was just getting started. I smiled more, complimented him more. Let him believe he was earning back my trust. Meanwhile, I was adding new tabs to my file: bank withdrawals, late-night phone calls, shady transactions. He thought he was managing the situation. But what he didn't realize was that I had stopped being his wife weeks ago. I was now his reckoning, and the final bill wasn't even close to being due. By now, he was practically walking on eggshells. Every time I glanced at my phone, he flinched. Every time I came home late, he asked too many questions with too little courage. "I trust you," he'd say, eyes darting. And I'd smile, kiss his cheek, and whisper, "That's all I ever wanted." He never realized I was mirroring his lies back to him, only quieter, sharper, smarter, and I was loving every second of it. I started asking for more. "I've always wanted to see Italy," I said one evening. "Don't you think we deserve a little escape?" He hesitated. Credit cards were starting to pinch. But then I tilted my head, placed my hand over his, and softly added, "It'd be such a shame if our happiness unraveled." That's all it took. He booked the trip within the hour. Fear is a wonderful motivator when it's dressed like love. That was the turning point. I no longer needed revenge. I had leverage, luxury, control. He kept trying to fix a problem he didn't understand, because he still thought the problem was the other woman. But she was just a symptom. The real problem was me, finally seeing my worth, and the price of every lie he'd ever told. And soon, he'd find out just how high that price really was. By then, the sparkle in his eyes was gone, replaced with exhaustion and a quiet kind of dread. He still smiled when I walked into the room, still kissed my cheek like a man holding onto the edge of a crumbling ledge. The money was thinning. The cards were tight. His charm was running on fumes, but I kept the illusion alive. I still wore the dresses he bought, still told him I loved him, still made it all look beautiful. But he was unraveling. He thought the worst had passed, that we'd survived some unspoken storm, that my new wardrobe and calm demeanor meant I'd forgiven him. In truth, I was just spending the last of his lies, wrapping them in ribbon, wearing them on my wrist, turning every ounce of betrayal into something tangible, something mine. And when I felt the time was right, I started packing. Not dramatically, quietly. One dress at a time, a few toiletries, a folder of evidence tucked deep inside my bag. I booked a quiet little getaway under a different name, somewhere coastal, peaceful. He asked no questions when I told him I needed a break, just gave me a tired smile and muttered, "Maybe space will be good for us." I kissed his forehead, nodded slowly, and went to bed beside him one last time. He didn't hear me leave. I was careful, deliberate. The kind of quiet you only learn when you've spent months pretending. My bag was already by the door. My phone? Gone. My keys? Already in hand. I looked around one last time, not at him, but at the life I had staged so perfectly. And then I slipped out like a ghost, leaving only a breeze behind me. I didn't leave chaos. I left clarity. Everything had a place, just not me. The house was still in order, the kitchen spotless, the bills stacked neatly on the counter, unopened. His world looked the same on the outside, but inside, it had already begun to collapse. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine, just my silence, my peace, and the upper hand. And I left something in return, something simple, final, a note. I placed it gently on the bed, folded in half. No angry letters, no tear-stained confessions. Just one sentence, written in my cleanest handwriting. I hope she likes debt. I left you with all of it. That was it. No goodbye, no explanation. Because honestly, what was left to say? He'd already bought the ending. I just handed him the receipt. As the train pulled out of the station, I didn't cry. I didn't look back. I watched the landscape change through the window, gray buildings turning into open fields, and felt something loosen in my chest. Not joy, not sadness, just freedom. The quiet kind that doesn't arrive with fireworks, but settles over you like a warm blanket after a long storm. I didn't miss him. I didn't miss anything. Because I had already let go, long before the suitcase, long before the note. This wasn't an escape. It was a choice. The final purchase in a series of calculated transactions. He bought lies, I bought time. He spent trust, I spent silence. And now the balance was paid in full. I owed him nothing. And the best part? He wouldn't even realize it until it was too late. He'd wake up and reach for me, and find a closet half empty, a phone that doesn't ring. A life that looks like it still holds me, but never will again. And maybe he'll wonder when exactly he lost me. The truth? It wasn't when he lied. It was when he believed I wouldn't do anything about it. That was the moment. And now? Now he can sit with it. Thomas didn't fall apart all at once. It was a slow crumble. First came the shock, then the panic. He tore through drawers, called my phone again and again, then probably tried to convince himself I was just being dramatic. But when the credit card bills came in and the bank accounts looked thinner than he remembered, reality set in. I hadn't taken his money. I just let him spend it. On me, on guilt, on the illusion that he still had control. And the other woman? Gone too. Vanished the second the perks dried up. Whatever fantasy he built with her collapsed under unpaid dinners and revoked room upgrades. She wasn't in it for the man, just the spoils. And now, there were none. Not even his reputation could save him. He started missing work. Old friends stopped calling. The house that once looked like comfort now echoed with regret. And I had peace. Real, grounded, unshakable peace. I didn't need applause. I didn't need anyone to know what I'd done. That was the beauty of it. It was mine alone. I rebuilt quietly, in a city where no one asked about my past, where my name didn't come with shadows. I started fresh, with dignity, and with every inch of my self-worth restored. I rented a small apartment at first, nothing grand, but it was mine. I'd wake up without tension in my chest, without checking my phone for lies wrapped in affection. There was no one to perform for anymore. Just me, and that felt sacred. I'd make coffee in silence, open the windows, and let the sunlight spill across clean countertops. It was ordinary, but it was also everything I never had with him. I didn't rush to move on. People always ask, did you meet someone new? Like that's the end goal. But the truth is, I didn't need anyone to rescue me. I rescued myself. I went back to the version of me that existed before the pretending. I read again. I danced in the kitchen. I laughed without checking who was watching. And sometimes I sat alone in the quiet and felt whole. Then one afternoon, I passed a small boutique. Nothing fancy, just a little shop tucked between a bakery and a bookstore. And in the window, there it was, a necklace. Silver, simple, elegant. No sapphires, no drama. Just beautiful in the way that truth is beautiful. The kind of thing you buy for yourself without needing permission or approval. I stepped inside, smiling as the bell above the door chimed. The woman behind the counter greeted me with a soft smile. "Would you like to try it on?" she asked, holding the necklace gently in her hands. I looked at the way the light danced across the chain, simple but certain. I ran my fingers along it once, then shook my head. "No need," I said. "I already paid for my freedom." She didn't ask what I meant. She just smiled, like maybe, somehow, she understood. I walked out into the sun, the necklace tucked safely in a small velvet box, a silent symbol of everything I had reclaimed. Not revenge, not victory, something far better, clarity, and maybe, just maybe, peace. The kind you earn when you stop begging to be loved and start choosing yourself without apology. That was the real ending. Not the broken man I left behind. Not the lies, the gifts, or the games. Just this moment. Quiet, steady, mine. Somewhere he's still trying to put the pieces together. Still asking where I went. But I didn't disappear. I arrived, and for the first time in a long, long while, I was finally home.